33 million lottery win exposed. The amazing test I gave my family that transformed everything. When Sarah Greene scratched off that lottery ticket, the world around her vanished. The numbers glowed on the screen, revealing a staggering $33 million jackpot. For the first time in years, hope flickered in her tired heart. Yet as the joy washed over, an undercurrent of trepidation surged. How would this wealth change everything? What would it mean for her 2 children? Panic gripped her. She had worked 2 jobs just to scrape by, raising her kids with every ounce of grit she had. And now, just like that, her humble life felt poised on the edge of a breathtaking cliff. The dawn that followed her win brought with it an avalanche of emotions. Joy at the idea of freedom, dread over the potential fallout. Would her family still love her for who she was? Or would they see only the money? As whispers and rumors danced between neighbors, she faced a growing tide of uncertainty, overwhelmed by the fear of betrayal. She hadn't just won a fortune. She had unknowingly thrown a match into her tightly knit community, igniting the fragile fabric of trust that held them all together. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Her mind raced as she devised the family test, a series of challenges meant to expose the true intentions of those who surrounded her. Would they embrace her triumph, or would they turn into vultures, preying on her newfound fortune? The first task, a community service project, felt almost whimsical. Sarah envisioned a day filled with bonding and purpose, but as she gathered them in her small living room, the atmosphere thickened with an unspoken tension. Some dove into the task with genuine excitement, while others slinked away, grumbling about inconvenience. Her cousin Jessica, chatting away about her influencer clout, seemed oblivious to the deeper implications. Uncle Tom sat silently, resentment flickering in his eyes. As the challenges unfolded, so did the unraveling of their familial tapestry. The second test demanded vulnerability, sharing their personal struggles. Unease settled in the room. Secrets revealed their jagged edges. Jessica's bravado cracked, revealing insecurities she hid behind glamour. Uncle Tom's confessions laid bare bitterness, igniting something primal within her. Wasn't this family supposed to be a safe harbor, not a battleground? With each confession, Sarah's heart wrenched tighter as she recognized how her wealth was shifting the landscape of loyalty and love. Just as she began to feel a semblance of clarity, her father, a man she had always admired, stood up and broke the silence with an unexpected blow. He unveiled a plan for a business that would secure a future for her family, dressed in the guise of paternal support, while the stench of ulterior motive lingered. His words struck like a thunderclap, leaving her reeling. Had she misjudged him? The reflection of her family's faces morphed into something new, something colder. They who were family were now wrapped in a shroud of suspicion. In that moment, a churning dread consumed her. Could she trust any of them? The very foundation she built through sacrifice and love was cracking beneath her. What was she, if not the struggle she had fought through? As doubt seeped in, Sarah realized this test was far more than a game. It was a reflection of her darkest fears. With the weight of betrayal swirling, she grasped desperately for the understanding she once held dear. How far would she have to go to discover the truth of her family, the very essence of loyalty amidst a whirlwind of wealth? With doubts clawing at her heart, she prepared for the deeper challenges ahead. Hours turned into days, and the weight of uncertainty anchored itself deeper within Sarah. She paced her modest living room, tracing the linoleum floor with restless steps. The modest decoration felt stark against her new reality, as the $33 million prize loomed over every decision she made. The enormity of that wealth was not just a financial shift. It was morphing into a catalyst for chaos, seeping into her relationships and altering her own self-perception. With the next challenge of the family test on the horizon, Sarah's mind reeled. What next method would expose the truth concealed beneath the surface of family loyalty? She oscillated between cautious optimism and paralyzing fear, each option a potential landmine. The stakes felt higher now. This was no longer just a game. It was her life, her legacy, and she needed clarity. Driven by her need for insight, she collapsed into her worn armchair, her fingers tightening around a notepad. She began to draft the third task, a financial literacy workshop. Her vision was ambitious: to invite the family to learn about investing, savings, and budgeting. She hoped to illuminate the reality of wealth management, exposing commitment and genuine interest. But as she scribbled, a gnawing voice in her head whispered that perhaps this was also about control, a way to mitigate greed and sift through the layers of discourse hiding true intentions. She would not allow self-doubt to eclipse her resolve. With renewed determination, Sarah reached out to her family, declaring the workshop would happen the following weekend. The responses varied. Jessica eagerly threw herself into planning, while Uncle Tom quietly likened it to a charade. As the days slipped by, tension simmered like molten lava beneath the surface, each exchange fraught with implications. Friday night brought an unexpected phone call from an old friend, Cassie, who once shared a dream of starting a business. As they spoke, reminiscing about the hopeful aspirations they'd once had, Cassie's tone turned serious. "Sarah, are you okay? You sound different. This money, it's changing you, isn't it?" Her words hit hard, a reminder that through the whirlwind of her family's betrayal, she was wrestling with her own identity. Who was she beneath the weight of this unexpected fortune? The next day, armed with her resolve, Sarah faced her relatives. They gathered in her living room, the air thick with anticipation. She outlined her vision for the workshop, underscoring the need for each person to understand the power that lay in their hands, even if it was simply the power to choose integrity over greed. Some nodded along, while others exchanged glances drenched in skepticism. As the workshop unfolded, Sarah saw flickers of engagement from some, but also blatant indifference from others. It was then that she caught sight of Uncle Tom, his arms crossed, a storm brewing in his eyes. Her heart quickened. She sensed confrontation brewing. Fear washed over her, yet she knew she had to confront this growing tension. "Uncle Tom," she said, her voice steady despite the quaking in her chest. "You seem unhappy with this whole process. Is there something you'd like to share?" The room fell silent, all eyes pivoting toward him. "Why should we need your lessons?" He shot back, the venom in his tone unmistakable. "You think a few sessions will change how we feel about what you've done to our family?" The accusation hung between them, a sharp blade of distrust. Sarah's breath caught, and yet she felt a surge of clarity surfacing through the chaos. This was not merely a challenge, it was a pivotal moment. With resolve renewed, she faced him unflinchingly. "This isn't just about money, it's about us. If we can't trust each other, then what do we even have?" Uncle Tom's expression shifted for a fleeting moment, revealing cracks in his staunch demeanor. As they locked eyes, the gravity of their shared history weighed upon them. Was this the moment Sarah needed to initiate profound change within her family before it slipped beyond repair? Her pulse raced with possibility that moments of honest confrontation would illuminate buried truths. The stakes felt incalculably high, but deep in her gut, she sensed that one way or another, this confrontation could either fortify or fracture their tenuous ties. Determined to push against the impending storm of emotions, Sarah pondered what the next challenge should be. Would it push them toward reconciliation, or deeper conflict? The answer swirled in her mind, and she knew she had to act. A deeper test awaited them all, and it was time to pull back the layers of love, greed, and trust. Would she find unity within the chaos, or unearth an even darker betrayal lurking deeper within her family? Amidst the chatter of discontent that followed Uncle Tom's outburst, Sarah felt her throat tighten. She could sense the room's energy shift, tension palpable like an electric current. She had anticipated pushback, yet the ferocity of his words struck a deeper chord. Confrontation lay before her, not just with her family but with herself. What did she want to achieve? In this moment, clarity eluded her as uncertainty circles around her like a predator. "Listen, everyone," she said, her voice rising slightly above the murmur, desperate for unity. "I know this feels like a financial seminar where I'm trying to pull the strings, but I'm not here to dictate what you should or shouldn't do. I am here for all of us to open the floor to honest dialogue." The walls felt like they were closing in, and she could see various family members' reactions: Jessica's supportive smile, Uncle Tom's scowl, others distracted by their phones. The chasm that had grown between them felt wider than ever, And yet this was her moment to bridge it, or watch it disintegrate completely under the weight of their resentment. Let us talk about what wealth means to us, what it brings into our lives, she continued, grounding herself. Trust, love, disparity, it's all tied together now more than ever. Why don't we share what money makes us feel? A wave of silence extended through the room as she challenged them to peel back the layers of embarrassment, greed, and fear. Uncle Tom shifted uncomfortably, his posture betraying the inner conflict she sensed. She could read his hesitance, it mirrored her own. Finally, Jessica interjected, her voice soft yet firm. That's a start, Sarah. But we need to question our feelings about it. Think about how this money affects our dynamics as a family. The conversation unfurled hesitantly, like a fragile flower seeking sunlight. As they engaged in raw disclosures, Sarah experienced both the ache of vulnerability and a burgeoning sense of hope. Tim, one of her cousins, shared feelings of inadequacy, a feeling overshadowed by Sarah's sudden windfall. As if a lever had been pulled, the room came alive with an honest exchange. Grievances turned into a dialogue on fears, and it felt liberating. For the first time since the lottery win, Sarah sensed intimacy emerging from the rubble. But soon after, when Tom finally spoke again, the danger lurked with every word. Are we to pretend that this prize didn't split us apart? Or do we admit the truth? Your wealth is a wedge that you forced between us. Sarah's heart sank at this notion. The familiar pang of inadequacy resurfaced, knocking her off kilter. I didn't ask for this. But I am asking for us to confront the issues head-on. We can either accept what's there or allow it to bury us. She took a deep breath, willing herself to remain composed. So, I'm suggesting a follow-up challenge. Something more intense, more revealing than this workshop. As she divulged her plan, to take part in a trust-building retreat in the woods away from their usual distractions, their expressions hardened with skepticism. You want to put us in a cabin and hope everything magically changes? Uncle Tom exclaimed, incredulous. Not magic, Uncle Tom. Sarah fired back, bolstered by the rising tide of determination. Reality. A chance to unearth what we really feel, and perhaps more importantly, what we really want. I want us to choose honesty. In that moment of tension, it felt as though a line had been drawn in the sand. Would they step forward into the unknown, willing to confront their fears, or retreat further into resentment? In the lull that followed, uncertainty hung thick in the air. An unspoken question floated. Would Sarah's leap of faith push her family toward unity, or would it unravel their already fragile relationships, exposing deeper betrayals yet to be revealed? The silence in the room was oppressive, each second stretching as if to test Sarah's resolve. She could feel her heartbeat reverberate in her ears, a reminder of the stakes laid bare before her. To make matters worse, Uncle Tom's piercing gaze remained fixed on her, each moment tightening the knot in her stomach. How could she lead them into uncharted territory when her own thoughts felt so scrambled? The response she sought was not merely verbal. It was emotional, requiring vulnerability from a family ripe with buried truths. Steeling her spine, she drew on memories of her steadfast childhood, realizing that overcoming this challenge meant invoking the strength she once drew from those bonds. Look, she prompted, matching Tom's intensity to show that her intentions were anchored in love. I'm not asking for blind acceptance of everything I've gained. I'm asking for us to face the awkwardness together, to hold space for each other's feelings. Jessica nodded, leaning forward in her chair. Why don't we start with our fears? She suggested, her voice inviting. What do we fear will happen when we rearrange how we deal with this wealth? Let us dig into those emotions. Just as that sense of collective introspection began to take root, Uncle Tom cut in. What's the point of confronting feelings if we aren't facing the reality? Wealth divides, Sarah. Changed you and we all see it. What appears to be confidence could easily slip into arrogance. The word arrogance hit Sarah like a slap, igniting a defensive fire deep within her. Yet she knew this was exactly the kind of confrontation she needed to navigate. Instead of retreating, she felt a primordial urge to clarify the truth. Changed me, yes. But not in the ways you think. The weight of this win comes with insecurity too, Uncle Tom. I'm afraid of losing the very connections I cherish, the kind of conversations we should be able to have. If anything, I am lost. As the words left her lips, she noticed heads nodding around the table. This shift in dynamic stirred something deep inside her, a raw power surging through the fissures of self-doubt. What had begun as a confrontation morphed into profound recognition. "Let us engage with that fear," Tim ventured, voice tinged with newfound courage. "What if, instead of seeing Sarah as separate from us, we accept her as part of our family who just entered a new phase of life? We can't let wealth define our relationships." The acceptance of uncertainty was palpable, unfolding like an unexpected embrace, washing away the invisible lines separating them. It lit a spark of curiosity in Sarah, igniting a determination to leverage this newfound momentum. How could she incorporate this dynamic into their upcoming retreat to ignite change further? "Exactly," Sarah responded, the earlier tension beginning to dissolve. "At the retreat, let us focus on being honest but also constructive. We'll challenge each other, share experiences, and maybe create something beautiful from the discomfort. We can describe the baggage money brings but also explore what we can build from it together." Sarah felt a curious sense of power growing within her, sensing for the first time that this family could collectively define a new identity, not just a reaction to her wealth, but as partners confronting shared vulnerabilities. But the atmosphere shifted again as Uncle Tom spoke, one brow arched skeptically. "You think that just taking us into some cabin will fix everything? You'll have a lot more to face in the woods." His words hung in the air, a grim reminder that the journey ahead would not be straightforward. There were walls to be dismantled, misunderstandings to address, and perhaps even deeper grievances than she realized. Could she truly lead her family through the woods, past the shadows of conflict, towards the illuminating light of understanding? The realization sent shivers down her spine. There would be more at stake than merely her own personal enlightenment. What lay ahead was a test not just for her family, but for herself. With that, doubt and determination began their familiar waltz once again. As the conversation progressed, a thought echoed in Sarah's mind. With everything on the precipice, the question loomed larger. Were they ready for the full truth? And what revelations awaited her in that cabin beneath the towering trees? The retreat loomed ahead, a backdrop for Sarah's internal battle, as much as it was a physical journey for her family. The cabin, nestled deep within the woods, felt deceptively serene. The shifting leaves whispered secrets, and the constant rustling of the wind seemed to echo the uncertainty stirring in her heart. She was tasked not just with facing her family's fears. She was faced with her own as well. Would she emerge stronger? Or would this endeavor expose her vulnerabilities painfully? As Sarah packed their essentials, her mind raced through the possibilities, mapping out conversations she hadn't yet had. Would they cling to old grievances? Or would they breathe deeply into vulnerability together? Each item she placed into the duffel bag felt weighted with the significance of the stakes involved. This retreat had the potential to alter their family dynamics permanently, igniting a spark of true connection, or leading to a catastrophic level of division. Sitting on the floor, she traced the fabric of the blanket she had sewn herself years ago. The tactile reminder of her childhood rooted her, allowing memories of warmth to cascade over her. Could she create that same warmth in the cabin? "I can't just expect them to walk into this without apprehension," she muttered under her breath, surrendering to the reality that fostering emotional connections would require more than just her will. It would take deliberate actions and a great deal of courage from everyone involved. On the drive to the retreat, tension festered in the car. Silence wrapped around them like a blanket, punctuated only by the occasional nervous chuckle, or the clearing of a throat. Sarah glanced at Jessica, who was gazing out the window, her brow furrowed in contemplation. Each family member wore their worries like an invisible cloak, shielding themselves against what they feared to lose or confront. What if they're not ready for this? The doubt slithered in, taunting her with opportunities for failure. A flicker of unease darted through her as she considered Tom's remarks. Maybe, just maybe, he was right. Was she truly equipped to navigate through the complexities of family connections strained by wealth? In the midst of her spiraling thoughts, an idea ignited. Perhaps she could break the ice with a challenge. "Okay, everyone," she suddenly said, her voice sharper than she intended. "How about we create a pact for our time away? Something tangible that will anchor us through whatever arises. We can call it the family truth code." "Truth code?" Tim echoed, skepticism lacing his words as he raised an eyebrow. "Yes," Sarah continued, a surge of passion coursing through her. "Let us write down what we commit to exploring together. our fears, revelations we hope to uncover, and the communication tools we'll use to stay honest with one another. Once we're in the cabin, we can discuss all of this as a family. She noticed slight shifts among them. Interest pricked at their stillness, though uncertainty lingered. Uncle Tom's lips pursed, yet an intrigued glint sparked in his eyes. "Hey, I'm intrigued. But this better not be just some exercise in fluff." Sarah met his gaze steadily, her resolve strengthening. "No fluff, only honesty. I promise it won't be easy, but it's time we dismantle whatever barriers we've put up. It's time to confront the truth. No more avoiding what lies beneath." As they approached the cabin, trepidation melded with anticipation, marking a critical turning point. Each family member would need to decide whether they would stand alongside Sarah against the shadows of their past, or whether they would retreat back to familiarity. Once they reached the clearing, she felt the earth shift, not just physically but spiritually, as if the forest itself held its breath, awaiting their next move. Would her plan unravel or elevate them toward meaningful connection? And what were the secrets that lay ahead, just waiting for her to uncover? The weight of her family's hidden struggles loomed in the air, heavy and electric, ready to be confronted. This was only the beginning. As Sarah stepped inside the cabin, the air was thick with a tension that rippled through the silence. Light streamed in through the large windows, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the beams. She took a moment to appreciate the serene surroundings, but even the beauty of the wooded landscape couldn't dispel the mounting pressure she felt. Was it too late to turn back? "All right, everyone," Sarah began, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Let us unpack and reconvene in the living room." The family dispersed, each member clutching bags and personal items like a lifeline. Jessica lingered, her eyes searching Sarah's face for confidence. Sarah managed a shaky smile, silently urging her daughter that they could do this. Once settled, the group gathered in the living room, each seat a marker of their unspoken fears. Sarah held a notepad, the pages blank but already heavy with potential content. "Before we dive into our family truth code, I want us to share one fear we have about this weekend," she stated, feeling the weight of all eyes upon her. "We're supposed to get vulnerable here?" Uncle Tom scoffed, crossing his arms. "This is going to be a disaster." "Or a revelation," Sarah countered, her voice firm. "This gathering could be our chance to be honest and deeply connect, something we've shied away from for too long." Tim shifted uncomfortably, trading glances with Jessica. "Fine, I'll bite. I fear we're just going to end up arguing. It's what we do best, right?" His sarcastic tone only scratched the surface of the deeper worry hiding beneath. "Is that really what you want?" Sarah questioned, digging deeper. "Are you that willing to let old patterns dictate our family dynamic?" The weight of silence stretched again as each family member faced their unspoken truths. Jessica broke first. "I'm afraid of losing you all, that maybe we can't come back from whatever fights we might have. I want to believe we can fix things, but what if we're all just too broken?" Her candor pierced the heavy atmosphere, and it was as if the room took a collective breath. Encouraged, Sarah continued, "Thank you for sharing, Jess. What if we reframed how we view these moments? Instead of seeing them as risks, we could see them as opportunities for growth." The tension didn't completely dissipate, but a sense of curiosity began to replace it. Tom's brow began to unfurrow, and the corner of his mouth twitched. "Opportunities for growth? Huh? Well, let us see what we're actually working with." The family passed around the notepad, each jotting down fears and hesitant strokes. There was power in the act of writing, a small weave of trust forming as they shared their vulnerabilities. Sarah felt hope as she watched them step beyond their initial skepticism. She was not only facilitating this moment, but transforming herself in the process. Each revelation was an opportunity to understand one another better and unravel miscommunication shackles. Then a shift in tone occurred as Tim spoke again. "I'm afraid of being stuck. We're all pretending to be okay when we're not. I can't keep living this lie." His words rang hollow but also rich with honesty. Sarah's heart raced. Here it was, the essence of what she feared and yearned for, a confrontation with the very core of their relationships. "What if we use this weekend," she proposed, "to strip away those lies? It's time to change the narrative." As they spoke, Sarah understood that this was no small task. It was monumental, and the stakes couldn't be higher. By dismantling their facades, would they uncover something genuine? or ignite an inevitable confrontation that could tear them apart. As they progressed, the air grew electric, thick with vulnerability and anticipation. Each fear, each confession carved an invisible map guiding them further into their shared unknown. With every moment of honesty, she felt her own fears start to dissolve. Yet, just as she found her footing, a shadow of dread lingered. What if their revelations unearthed painful truths they weren't ready to handle? Are we ready for what lies beneath? She pondered silently, the question echoing in her mind as she watched her family navigate through the web of their shared history. With a collective inhale, the next family member prepared to share. And Sarah felt the pull of fate drawing them closer together yet further apart. What awaited them remained hidden in the depths of their truths. Would they emerge united or fractured beyond repair? Sarah could only hope as the uncertainty loomed, heavy with the promise of revelation. The cabin felt both like a sanctuary and a ticking clock, waiting to reveal the mysteries hiding just beneath the surface. Just as Sarah was about to call on the next family member, the room felt like it had turned into a furnace, the heat of unsaid words simmering just below the surface. She could sense a depth of emotion surfacing, ready to spill over like the waves crashing on a rocky shore. It was uncanny how one moment of vulnerability had the power to shift the atmosphere, transforming fear into something that resembled possibility. "Let us go in order of age," Sarah suggested, her voice steady but desperate to maintain focus. It was a simplistic approach, a strategic attempt to siphon tension away from the looming uncertainties. "Tim, you're next." Tim brooded for a moment, his frame heavy with an internal struggle. "All right," he began, his eyes meeting everyone else's with equal parts defiance and fear. "I guess my fear ties back to what I said earlier about being stuck." He gestured vaguely. "I feel like I'm moving through life on autopilot." His voice faltered as he continued. "There are dreams I abandoned, career aspirations, relationships I didn't pursue because it's just easier to coast, to keep the peace." The room absorbed his confession, the gravity of it sinking in as a combination of discomfort and recognition settled on their faces. Sarah could feel her heart pounding as she processed the truth in his words. Autopilot, it was a term that resonated with her own life choices. While they each played their respective roles in this family dynamic, who were they beneath the masks they wore? "You've suppressed your desires for the sake of others," Sarah offered gently. "But what if you reclaim that ambition? What would it look like to prioritize those dreams and ambitions?" Tim's shoulders slumped. "It feels reckless. I don't even know who I am anymore outside of my responsibilities. What if I end up disappointing everyone?" "Disappointment is a part of growth," Sarah replied, her sincerity unwavering. "When you prioritize yourself, you aren't necessarily letting others down. You could, in fact, inspire them to do the same." The truth lingered in the room, and as each family member contemplated their thoughts, a shift occurred yet again, a softening of resolve paired with a dawning clarity. Before anyone could internalize Tim's revelation, Sarah called out to Uncle Tom. "Your turn." Tom, still at odds with the process, uncrossed his arms slowly. "Fine. You want honesty? I fear that I've become irrelevant. Look at how different you all are from me. I'm just here." His admission hung in the air, stirring stifled emotions. "All I know is how to hold on to what's familiar, but maybe it's not serving me anymore." Sudden vulnerability crackled within Uncle Tom's expression, providing a pivotal moment for Sarah to grasp. "What if you permitted yourself to adapt?" she suggested softly. "Life is about evolution, especially with family. You don't have to lose your identity to embrace change." The familial barriers began to dissolve as each person grappled with their self-imposed limits. A glance from Jessica slid into Sarah's view, amplifying her awareness of how transformational this experience was becoming. It wasn't just about confronting collective fears. It was about unearthing a shared journey through personal struggles. She prompted her daughter next. "Jess, would you like to share?" Jessica took a deep breath, leaning forward. "I guess I'm afraid of not living up to the image you all have of me. Perfect daughter doing everything right, but I feel lost sometimes. What if I'm not what you expect?" Sarah's heart clenched, flooded with a mixture of sadness and pride. "You know, Jess," she paused, "you could never disappoint me by being authentic. Whether you're perfect in everyone's eyes or not doesn't matter to me. What I want is to support the real you." Tears glistened in Jessica's eyes, their connection deepening intangibly, a palpable thread woven into their conversation. Room temperatures shifted with honesty, merging each confession into a tapestry of fears and dreams. As the next family member prepared to share, Sarah felt both exhilaration and trepidation thrumming in her veins. Each unveiling felt like a step onto uncertain ground. The cavernous darkness beneath the surface loomed treacherously. They stood on the precipice between revealing their truths and confronting the demons tied to those truths. Would the next revelation shatter them or elevate them beyond at once? Uncertainty thrummed through Sarah's core, pushing her to wonder whether they could truly emerge from this gathering redefined. A realization flashed quietly in her mind. What was hidden in their truths might just transform their lives entirely. But would she, too, be ready for the ultimate reckoning awaiting her own self-discovery? The moment of silence that followed Julia's remark felt heavier than the air around them. Sarah's mind raced as she turned to face her younger sister, the next in line. Julia, always the one to wear her emotions openly, now sat rigidly, eyes darting between her family, searching for words amid the tension that blanketed the room. "Okay," Julia started, her voice shaking slightly. "I think I'm the one who struggles most with expectations. Not just yours but mine too. I've always felt like I had to live up to the standards of being the all-in-one, the supportive sister, the responsible one. And lately I've felt like a failure in every aspect." Sarah saw anger flicker in Tim's expression but quickly noted it transformed to concern. Julia's vulnerability tapped into something deeper within the family. "What do you mean you feel like a failure?" Sarah queried gently, nudging her sister to dive deeper. "Because I'm neither great at work nor at home. I just keep trying to please everyone, and in the end I feel like I'm nothing." Her admission cut through the air like a knife. "I put on a brave face but inside it's falling apart. I don't even know if I want the job I have anymore. Feels pointless." The undeniable truth in her words scraped at Sarah's heart. How many others felt as Julia did? How many lives within the family seemed superficially fine, but were paralyzed by hidden fears? "You don't have to be perfect for everyone," Sarah said slowly. "Sometimes it's okay to let yourself feel lost. That loss doesn't define you. We all want to support you, even if your choices look different from what you thought they should be." For a fleeting moment, an array of emotions flooded Julia's expression, relief mingled with confusion. Did she dare dream of forging a path outside of others' expectations? "I guess maybe I need to explore that," Julia murmured, her voice steadying. "But is it too late for me to change directions?" "Never," Tim interjected with unexpected warmth. "It's never too late. I think what we're discovering tonight is that life can have multiple paths, and maybe we've all been too afraid to take them." A stirring sense of unity rippled through the room, making Sarah's heart swell with hope. Each person's vulnerability felt like a thread woven closer, an intricate network of shared insecurities. But as Sarah took a breath, outwardly exuding calm, internally, she felt a vice tightening around her chest, an unwelcomed reminder of her own need to confront her truths. "All right, who's next?" Sarah prompted, trying to redirect the conversation toward her next family member. But her mind wandered to the unaddressed shadows lurking just beyond her own guarded facade, an impending reckoning she could no longer avoid. With a mix of anxiety and trepidation, she turned to face the group, her voice trembling with uncertainty. "I guess it's my turn now." The room's temperature shifted, charged with the tense anticipation of her revelation. The ground beneath Sarah felt shaky as her heart quickened. Would her own truths be accepted? It was one thing to encourage her family to share. It felt like a different game entirely to reveal the deepest secrets of her soul. Would they still stand together if she unveiled the very struggles that made her who she was? As the air thickened with silence, Sarah's doubt was suddenly punctuated by an unexpected thought. Perhaps their collective fears could be the catalyst for her own transformation. And perhaps, just perhaps, the next astonishing truth to emerge could reshape not only her family but her entire understanding of herself. Would her honesty become a breakthrough for them all? Or would it fracture the delicate bonds they had just begun to strengthen? As Sarah's voice faltered, the room seemed to draw closer, the heat of her fears ramping up the pressure with every breath. She felt the weight of her family's gazes upon her, each one a silent plea for transparency. Was she ready to reveal the cracks in her perfectly curated facade? Drawing in a shaky breath, she measured her words carefully, each syllable a step deeper into uncharted territory. For a long time, I felt like I'm living a double life, one that's filled with accomplishment and respect but feels so disconnected from who I really am. I've worked hard to keep up appearances, but inside, I'm terrified of losing everything I've built. Tim leaned forward, concern etched onto his face, while Julia's eyes widened, reflecting a strange mix of empathy and relief. I know I have so much to be grateful for: a successful career, a comfortable home, and yet, the deeper I dive into my job, the more I question if it's all really what I want. Sarah continued, her voice trembling but gaining strength with each confession. I've spent years following a script that others seem to expect of me. Ambitious professional, nurturing partner, dutiful sister. But there's this part of me, the real me, that craves authenticity, exploration, freedom. With each revelation, the air shifted, carrying the faintest trace of hope and fear intermingled. Sarah's admission hung between them like a fine mist, closing the gaps that had widened over years of unvoiced struggles. I always thought you had it all figured out, Sarah, Julia admitted, her vulnerability rekindled by the shared moment. You seem so unshakable. Sarah's heart softened. I thought so too, but it's exhausting. Every achievement feels hollow when it's only for the sake of approval. She paused, the truth of her words reverberating in her mind. That's why I've started to question my next steps. I don't want my life to be a performance. I want to write my own story. Tim's eyes sparkled with an understanding that seemed to bridge the gap of their previous silent interactions. What if we all took steps to discover our true selves? He paused, allowing the question to settle like an unturned stone. What would that look like for each of us? What if we supported each other in those explorations? His words struck a chord, awakening a slumbering resolve in Sarah. The notion of transformation, the pursuit of authenticity, both personally and professionally, stirred something deep within her. Yet, with that awakening came the gnawing awareness of the risks involved. What transformations would come if she were to be vulnerable? Would it shatter the pieces of her carefully constructed life? Would her family accept her truth? Or would they push her away for daring to question the status quo? Maybe it's about confronting those fears together, Sarah said, her voice growing steadier. What if we each face one fear? A professional choice that feels daunting? Or a personal truth we've suppressed? As the words spilled forth, Sarah felt a surge of energy coursing through her. The path she envisioned was fraught with uncertainty, but each possibility represented a step toward authenticity. Julia nodded, inspired. I like that. It's not just about standing still in our comfort zones. It's about taking that leap. Tim smiled, leaning back, contemplating the idea. We could set up a system, a sort of accountability for each other. In that moment, a new understanding enveloped the room. A shared commitment rather than vulnerability alone. Each person would bring forth their fears and dreams, opening a dialogue that could reshape not only their relationships but their lives. Sarah felt a shift within herself, an orbit altering in her psyche. She could almost taste the adventures that lay ahead. But lurking beneath the surface was an even heavier truth. If they dove into this exploration, what would Sarah eventually discover about the direction she truly wanted to take? The anticipation and fear blended seamlessly within her, as she pondered the imminent revelations that could reshape the very fabric of her existence. As they prepared to explore this newfound commitment, the air buzzed with potential. Yet, just as easily could it spiral into chaos. Would their collective journey toward authenticity unite them, or fracture those delicate bonds forever? The next step felt both exhilarating and irrevocable. Days passed after Sarah's family retreat nestled in those woods, profoundly marking their paths. The tentatively woven threads of shared vulnerabilities remained alive, offering glimmers of hope. Yet, as the days turned into weeks, Sarah realized that while they had chipped at the iceberg of emotion, her own journey of transformation remained fraught with unanswered questions. Returning to her daily routine felt surreal. The mundane tasks of her life now served as reminders of the fears she had confronted, not just in others, but within herself. Sitting at her kitchen table one morning, coffee in hand, she contemplated the balance she sought in her professional ambitions and personal life. The clarity she craved now stood at the forefront, demanding her attention unapologetically. Fueled by the promise of change, she embraced her desire to reshape her career trajectory. The notion of pursuing a new path echoed in her mind, teasing her with wonder. Could she build a venture that reflected not just stability, but authenticity? What if she created a business that encouraged others to face their truths like she had done? Within her, the idea blossomed. A consultancy designed to empower individuals and families to manage the complexities of wealth and relationships, embracing not only financial growth but emotional resilience. Suddenly, everything felt connected. Her experiences, the retreat, and her renewed understanding of self-worth. With determination coursing through her veins, Sarah armed herself with research, resources, and a fierce resolve. She wanted to take proactive steps to actively live her values, imparting her hard-earned wisdom about navigating relational dynamics in the face of wealth. She enrolled in courses on business strategy and emotional intelligence, carefully crafting a foundation. Weeks passed, effort layered upon effort, and as she stood before a small group of potential clients in a makeshift seminar room, her project fully formed and alive, she felt a surge of appreciation. This was her debut, the culmination of trials, tests, and ultimately triumphs experienced both in the family cabin and beyond its confines. She had unearthed a true calling. As she delivered her presentation, painted with the vivid brushstrokes of personal experience, a newfound confidence anchored her stance with authenticity. I want to share the journey of navigating wealth while preserving relationships, because it's not just about numbers. It's about connection, trust, and authenticity, she articulated passionately. The room slowly became alive with questions and eager discourse. Connections formed organically as participants shared their stories, the foundation Sarah had always envisioned. Sowing seeds of understanding and vulnerability felt like planting the very roots of change her family had embraced. Outside of this new chapter, Sarah found that her family had also transformed. Each individual took strides toward confronting their truths, gingerly recalibrating relationships rooted in deeper understanding. Uncle Tom had embarked on a photography project that captured the essence of family, imbuing him with purpose. Julia decided to pursue art therapy, and Tim began mentoring youth in his field, embracing the notion that ambitions could evolve. Finally, in a gratifying twist, Sarah received an invitation to present her journey at a local community event, focused on empowerment in personal finance. It felt surreal, the culmination of her metamorphosis into someone not only self-aware but willing to guide and uplift others facing similar crossroads. With every connection forged, every story shared, Sarah gleaned her own fulfillment. Each affirmation from her audience felt like a sacred validation that she had uncovered her purpose. Her voice, once clouded in doubt, shone bright with an authority born of experience. Standing amidst her peers, she realized she had achieved what she once thought impossible, a powerful alliance between her ambitions and her real self. In linking wealth with emotional wellness, she had conquered inner battles, opened pathways for deeper awareness, and cultivated a reality that honored both family and authenticity. As she stepped down from that stage, warm applause enveloping her, Sarah felt solid confidence surge within her. Her experience had propelled her not just toward professional success, but toward an established position rooted in integrity and wisdom. She had not only redefined her relationship with wealth but with herself and her family. Now she looked forward to a brighter horizon, knowing that she had achieved the most profound transformation of them all, realizing that embracing her true self meant engaging deeply with her values, aspirations, and the rich tapestry of human connections. And with that realization, Sarah Greene understood the value of personal fulfillment, feeling justified pride in all she had accomplished. The family retreat had not just broken down barriers, it had revealed the light of authenticity that now guided her path. You need to subscribe now to journey with us, and not miss powerful transformations like Sarah's. This is the moment to show your support. Leave a like now to fuel our mission. Comment below with your thoughts and theories about Sarah's journey, and share instantly with 5 friends who need to see this conclusion to harness the power of personal overcoming stories. Don't wait even one more second.